Happy Victory Monday today, you guys. We beat the Chicago Bears and eliminated them from the playoffs. And also on top of that, as a double whammy, the Dallas Cowboys wiped out the Los Angeles Rams and we clinched a playoff spot. So it's great to be able to say that playoff football for the Packers is back again after a 2-year absence. We are going back to the playoffs, and we are 11-3. We're winning football games. We're winning ugly, but we are still winning, and it's all good. If you're a Packer fan, you have to feel at least pretty good that we're going to the playoffs, even though we're winning ugly, even though the offense is a little bit lackluster. You know, all the shortcomings and all the talkings of the supposed Packers identity crisis. Well, we found out the identity of the Packers is that we're winning football games, and that's what matters. We're winning football games, whether we're winning pretty or winning super mega ugly. It doesn't matter. We're winning. We're 11-3. We are still one game ahead of the Minnesota Vikings. Unfortunately, they shellacked the living daylights out of the LA Chargers, and Phillip Rivers looked exactly like what he is. Old man Rivers. He sucks. The Chargers suck. And I don't get how in the heck did they beat us back in November. Like, what the heck are the Chargers? My guess is that they are a really inconsistent team. They were 12-4 last year, and so that must show that they were actually pretty good. But Phillip Rivers was actually playing good. But I've come to the conclusion that he sucks and he should retire after the end of the season. And if I'm the LA Chargers, I'm going to draft Tua Tagovailoa, even though he may not be ready for the beginning of the season. But the hip injury doesn't sound like it's really all that major, and he could possibly play. But I would be cautious if I were teams, if I'm going to draft Alabama's Tua Tagovailoa. But onto the main topic here. The Packers can still clinch the number 1 seed all throughout the playoffs and get home field advantage at Lambeau. And here are the scenarios for the last 2 weeks coming up. So for next week, here's how things have to go down. We have to go into enemy territory at US Bank Stadium in Minnesota and beat them there. The Rams are in an absolute must-win, and they have to beat the 49ers in order for us to have a shot, because if the 49ers finish at 13 wins, they automatically got the number 1 seed over us, and they get the tiebreaker because they beat us earlier in the season. Seattle can beat the Arizona Cardinals, but at any point if they finish at 13 wins, they will get the tiebreaker over us, which I will explain a little bit later when we go over to week 17. And the New Orleans Saints, they can beat the Tennessee Titans. With them being at 12 wins, tied with us, we own them in the tiebreaker because of the conference record. But back over to the 49ers over the Rams. If the 49ers win, then we can pretty much forget about the number 1 seed, and the Rams' chances of getting to the playoffs will be over as well, as they would finish at an 8-7 record and they would be done with. If Arizona were to somehow pull off the upset and beat Seattle in Seattle, that would certainly help things. And they would be down to 11 wins, and then it would just be a matter of a battle going up against the 49ers on week 17. And now to go over to week 17, the Packers absolutely must beat the Detroit Lions, which I think we will absolutely do so. The Detroit Lions are currently at 3 wins on the season, and it's pretty safe to say that they are going to lose out. And if Matt Stafford is out, I'm definitely very confident we will definitely be able to win that game and end the season at 13-3. The San Francisco 49ers have to beat the Seattle Seahawks, because if Seattle does beat the Arizona Cardinals, they must finish at 12 wins. They both must finish at 12-4, because if either one finishes at 13-3, they get the tiebreaker over us. And to go over the tiebreaker and the rules, obviously I just pointed out the 49ers, if they finish at 13 wins with us, they get the tiebreaker because they beat us earlier, and Seattle would get us over the tiebreaker because of common opponents. They apparently, that's the tiebreaker there. Apparently Seattle just gets us in there. And the Saints, they can finish 13-3, they can go 12-4, won't matter because we got the tiebreaker over them. And I have the Minnesota Vikings beating Chicago in Minnesota, so that way they can finish out 11-5 and make the playoffs. So to take a look at the playoff picture to see where things would be if these scenarios were to play out like this, with the Packers taking the number 1 seed over the New Orleans Saints because of the tiebreaker, so they get the number 2 seed and get a first round bye. The Seattle Seahawks would finish ahead of the 49ers at 12-4 on the tiebreaker based off of common opponents. The Philadelphia Eagles I'm still predicting them to finish 9-7 and take the NFC East division. And I got the Minnesota Vikings at 11-5, taking the last wild card seed at the number 6 seed. So Minnesota Vikings man 28, if you're watching this, are you happy now that I got your Vikings in the playoffs? I'd like to give a huge shout out to him, by the way. You can go ahead and check out Minnesota Vikings Man 28's channel if you would like. He's a really, really cool Viking fan. He definitely has we have some mutual respect between each other's teams. So I would encourage you to check him out, Packers fan or not. He's a really, really cool dude, so that would really mean quite a bit if you could go ahead and sub him up if you would like, and that would be awesome. The LA Rams, obviously going 10-6 on the season, would miss the playoffs because of record, and that's how things would go down. And then for the playoffs, the Seattle Seahawks would be going up against Minnesota, and that game would be playing at Seattle. And the Eagles would get a playoff game at the Link, and they'd have to take on the Jimmy Garoppolo-led San Francisco 49ers, and that's how things would play out for the playoffs. And that's how things would go for the Packers to get the number 1 seed and home field advantage all throughout the playoffs at Lambeau Field.